Friday on Classic Country AM 1450 WREL. It's time now to take a look at the weekend review from a news standpoint with Chris Graham of the Augusta Free Press, who today wants to kind of focus on a couple of key issues, transportation and tourism. And I think you were telling me, Chris, that Senator Mark Warner was kind of focusing on tourism here recently, tourism specifically, I guess, in the Shenandoah Valley.
Yes, Mark was in the Valley in Stanton on Monday this week. He convened a tourism summit, as he called it. His staff put together a group of tourism sector leaders from all the way from Front Royal, Winchester area down to Southwest Virginia. And Senator Warner's idea is that, as he explained in the meeting, he thinks that the region here could benefit from some coordinated efforts. Basically, and we know this. I mean, Lexington and Rockridge, they do their own thing, and Stanton, Waynesboro, and Augusta tend to do their own thing, and Harrisonburg, Rockingham, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody does their own thing, and the idea being from the governor, former governor, now senator, is that what would maybe make some more sense would be to continue doing your own thing to the degree that you have to, but let's do some things together. The Valley is a very marketable region. The name Shenandoah is just as known nationwide as the word Virginia is, so it's something to bank on if we would work together and bank on it.
So where do you see this going? Do you really think, I guess, we're going to see a more streamlined approach?
I think it's very early stages, and the senator admitted as much after the meeting, talking with reporters. He said that, well, I know that this is going to be something that's going to take some time to get going. He though cited some efforts that he undertook as governor back in his term from 2002 to 2006, specific to extreme Southwest Virginia, down past the Blacksburg-Christiansburg area all the way down to Bristol. The development of the Crooked Road, the Music Heritage Trail that's still in development, but lots of efforts there to get some folks down there to cooperate across jurisdictional boundaries. That's the big issue, is getting people who have no other reason, no other ties, formal or informal, to work together. And it's one thing for individual localities to say, okay, we're going to spend our money in a certain way to market our area, but it takes a lot more effort to get people to realize the benefit of working together. But he pointed to those efforts down in Southwest Virginia, which, as he pointed out, don't have anything in terms of the resources, whether it's the local economy or the local transportation network that we have here in the heart of the Valley, with 81 and 64 cutting through our areas. The proximity we have to the big cities. I mean, he noted that we're 3 hours away from Dulles Airport, and the big entry point for a lot of foreign visitors. And so it's very early stages, but something that it's going to take somebody standing up as a leader. Maybe Mark Warner is that guy. Maybe some other folks as well, to say we need to do this. Let's start talking about this. Let's get around the table and start figuring these things out. I think it could happen, but it's going to take 10 years or so to get it to happen.
Yeah, and Governor Bob McDonnell also in the news this week, coming up with some extra money for transportation improvements. Not sure exactly how it's going to be used yet. I understand the Commonwealth Transportation Board should have the decision about where this extra funding is going to be used next spring. But essentially, I guess it was extra funding that the Kane administration was holding on to just to see which way the wind was going to blow, I guess, economically. And now Bob McDonnell says it's discovered, we've found it, we're going to use it.
Yeah, it's become a political issue, too, because Democrats say he found money that everybody knew was there. But you're talking about $1.4 billion in unused state monies. Sounds like a lot of money at first glance, $1.4 billion, but when you start considering what it costs to build a mile of roadway, a mile of interstate roadways is $10 million. $1.4 billion is going to go up pretty quick if you're thinking in those terms. So, the B number in front, or the B letter in front of the billion might sound like a lot, but we're still talking about a relative trickle in the grand scheme of things here in Virginia. But it is money. It can go to some projects that have been maybe sitting on the sidelines, and it is interesting to see, though, the political football being played. So the governor is playing that part up. The Democrats are saying, hey, we knew this money was there. He's trying to fool you into thinking that he's doing more on transportation than he really is. And I think really, taking the politics out of it, this is a huge economic issue. We know it's a transportation issue because you're talking about, the roads aren't being built and there's money to be spent. But it's an economic issue as much for here, us in the Valley with 81 and the long-term lingering talks about what to do about 81 to improve traffic flows there, not just for us drivers, but also for the transit that goes through and stops in our areas here to boost our economy, but also in other parts of the state, as they call it, the Golden Crescent. Northern Virginia, Richmond, and Hampton Roads areas. I mean, Virginia stands to potentially lose a lot. There's the development of a new port system down in the Savannah, Georgia area that could actually challenge the Norfolk area. If Georgia does a better job of making it easy for those tractor trailers basically to access those containers at the port in Savannah, then we can lose a lot of business here in Virginia at Norfolk. The Northern Virginia technology area that's been booming for the last 15 or 20 years. If it's hard, increasingly hard for people to get through the traffic snarls up there, then maybe that starts to go away. So there's a lot to these issues that just go beyond the politics. And I'm kind of hopeful that our leaders, Democrat and Republican, will be able to get around the politics and start solving these problems.
One of the things that just came to mind that was in the news this week was the alleged shooter of the Blue Ridge Parkway back in April. Of course, that's been bounced from the local level over to the federal level now, and the accused shooter, the suspect, is now facing the death penalty. Obviously made the mistake of not only doing what he did allegedly, but doing it on federal property on the parkway. Yeah,
that's an interesting development in the story, no question. And that story had riveted people for a few days here in our areas because of the fact that it happened on the parkway, and anybody can access the parkway. It ends up being a local guy from I think the Stewart Draft area.
I'm not sure how the defense is going to play this. I know the early defense seemed to predicate itself around drugs he was using and the adverse impact the drugs allegedly had on him.
Yeah, that seems that those strategies, they're going to try obviously a lot of things to try to mitigate the sentence. It doesn't seem at this point that they're questioning the facts or anything of that nature, except to try to mitigate the ultimate sentence. And that's in a case like this, it seems a lot of evidence has been gathered, and of course one of the victims survived and can identify the alleged attacker. So yeah, it seems we're in that phase, and the federal issue is an interesting development again because of that fact that that they can come in and push the death penalty. Of course, the state prosecutors could have done the same thing as well, and Virginia is not shy about implementing its death penalty. So this case will certainly have our attention for the next few months as those developments come through, and it's just one of those things that it was unfortunate. It was right here in our backyard, and it was a very scary thing, and it had a lot of us on edge because of the nature of what happened. You got two people, the two victims in the case were just out enjoying a nice evening and enjoying a sunset, and then tragedy happened. So so people will be paying attention to this just because of the nature of that crime.
Yeah, once again, our guest here, Chris Graham with the Augusta Free Press. And news-wise, Chris, what do we look for when it comes to the Augusta Free Press in the coming week or so?
Well, we're actually focusing our time on at least the next couple of weeks on the New Dominion magazine. We're going to come out with a December issue. I spent yesterday interviewing Santa Claus, as I've been telling people. I met a man who lives out in Swope in Augusta County, western Augusta County, who has been playing Santa Claus at the Stanton Mall for the last 12 years. And I tell you, he's got the long white beard naturally, the curly hair, the little belly that kind of jiggles just like Santa's, and he lives this way year round. And so I got to spend some time with Santa, as I like to say. We'll also be doing interviews with Emmett Hanger, who will be facing a re-election battle for his state Senate seat next November. And so a little bit of fun, a little bit of seriousness, and some other things involved as well.
Sounds great. Chris Graham with the Augusta Free Press right there. Back more of Online again here this Friday here on Classic Country, AM 1450, right after this.